without further ado, Chief Michael Troendle.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here. So I've got a prepared statement. I'm just going to run through it because it gives all the facts and everything, and then, as Sergeant Nasser said, we'll open up for questions right after. So on April 10, 2026, the Toledo police officers were patrolling a North Toledo neighborhood while following up on information regarding possible gang-related activity in the area that may have been connected to 2 previous homicides. While in the area, officers observed 4 individuals walking in the roadway near Austin Street and LaGrange Street, despite sidewalks being available nearby. After observing the violation, officers stopped to speak with the group and address the issue. Under the ORC, pedestrians walking in the roadway and the TMC walking along highways, officers had the authority to investigate the violation and determine whether enforcement action or a warning would be appropriate. During the interaction, officers requested identifying information from the individuals involved. One of those individuals, Kaylin Reynolds, repeatedly refused to provide the information necessary for officers to complete their investigation. Under ORC failure to disclose personal information, officers are authorized to obtain a person's name, address, and date of birth during a lawful stop under certain circumstances. The investigation found that Officer Michael Routson requested Reynolds' identification information multiple times and advised her that failure to provide that information could result in her arrest. After repeated requests were refused, officers placed Reynolds under arrest pursuant to ORC 2921.29. As officers attempted to take Reynolds into custody, the investigation found that she resisted officers' efforts to handcuff her by pulling away and failing to comply with commands. Investigators determined Reynolds resisted arrest in violation of ORC resisting arrest. During the arrest, officers used physical control techniques to gain control of the situation and place Reynolds in handcuffs. After she was handcuffed and brought to her feet, the investigation found that Reynolds spat on Officer Michael Routson. Investigators determined Routson violated ORC harassment by an inmate when she spat on Officer Routson while in custody. Officers then used an additional takedown technique to regain control before escorting her to the police vehicle. Immediately following the incident, the Toledo Police Department initiated an internal affairs investigation. Investigators reviewed body-worn camera footage, dash camera footage, witness statements, officer interview reports, applicable Ohio law and department policy. After reviewing all of the evidence, investigators determined that officers acted within their lawful authority and in accordance with the Toledo Police Department policy. Investigators further concluded that the physical control techniques used during the arrest were consistent with department training and department's response to resistance policy. As a result, both Officer Michael Routson and Officer Nicholas Palmer were exonerated in this investigation. For the second incident on May 20th, 2026, Officer Zachary Carroll and Chase Bainey were conducting crime suppression activities in the area of Fitchland Avenue and Sylvan Avenue when they observed a group of juveniles crossing the roadway outside of a designated crosswalk. The officers initiated a stop and began speaking with the juveniles regarding the violation. During the encounter, the juveniles questioned the reason for the stop, and one juvenile alleged the stop was race-related. An internal investigation reviewed body-worn camera footage, a cell phone video recorded during the encounter, supplemental reports, and statements from the involved officers. The investigation determined that both officers made comments during the encounter that were inconsistent with the department expectations and completely unacceptable. The comments included name-calling, remarks about the neighborhood in which the juveniles lived, and statements that mocked their economic status. Both officers acknowledged the statements during the course of the investigation. The investigation concluded that Officer Bainey violated department directive discourteous treatment and that Officer Carroll violated department directive conduct unbecoming an officer. As a result, both allegations were sustained. Officer Bainey received a written reprimand a formal disciplinary action that is now part of his employment record. Officer Carroll received a 15-day suspension without pay for comments that fell well below the standards expected of a total police officer. While these investigations resulted in different findings, both incidents reflected negatively on our department and our community. In each case, there were opportunities for better judgment and engagement. Whether an officer's actions were determined to be within policy or fell short of department expectations, training remains one of the most effective tools for reinforcing professionalism and public trust. As chief, I am directing additional training for department personnel in the areas of professionalism, cultural competency, child development and juvenile crisis response, and compassion fatigue. In addition, we are partnering with Earl Mack and the Buffalo Soldiers to host a series of community events this summer. These conversations will provide opportunities for both officers and community members to learn from one another and improve interactions moving forward. Our commitment is clear: to learn from these incidents and work alongside our community to build trust. That is the end of my prepared statement. I will now take any questions you may have.
What are these series of with the Buffalo Soldiers gonna do and be about? Do you know, have any idea about that yet?
Yeah, so we're looking to do some community forums. I've had a lot of conversations with Earl and, listening to the Buffalo Soldiers messaging. I think that's very good for us and the community to start building those conversations about interactions between police officers and our community. I think it's good for our officers to hear from our community members, what they're feeling during the stops. And I think it's important for our community members to understand the rights and the responsibilities of police officers during stops as well. There's always a lot of misinformation out there saying that police can't ask me my name, they can't stop me, I don't have to give them my information, and many times that simply is just not true.
With these trainings, I know you mentioned like compassion fatigue is one of the things. Can you kind of talk about what you guys are hoping, because it's probably easier to train responses than it is to potentially change mindsets or those initial reactions that officers might have in these situations?
Yeah, so for us, obviously, just kind of reinforcing the training they get originally in their academy. And then throughout the years, we always give departmental training, that's update training that's mandated by OPADA. So just kind of continuing to enforce those, bring some new topics that we've kind of learned about in recent years, some of the discussions we had with City Council, some possible these trainings might be very good for our officers, just to kind of reinforce those things. At the end of the day, the reality is Officer Carroll's comments are not a training issue. All right, that never has that been trained to you. Never should that have ever come out of his mouth. Unfortunately, we are dealing with human beings and human emotions and human reactions that are, unfortunately, as a chief, as our administrative staff, we can't always control what 620 cops say out there on the street. But what we can do is hold them responsible by our policies and discipline when they do things that are not within our policy. But with those officers specifically, what we can do is start giving them more training, individualized trainings, to make sure they learn from the mistakes they've made and to make sure that we're not ever going to repeat those kinds of mistakes.
Is Carroll part of your SWAT team, or what is his duties?
He was a part of our SWAT team. Immediately when I saw the video, I have the administrative right for the SWAT team and our special operations to assign people there as I see fit. Basically, it's a Class 1 category job. So when this came forward, I immediately removed him from there. He has now been reassigned back to operations.
When you say operations, is that back on the street?
Yes, it is.
Area, or?
Yeah. It's in a different area, but yes.
Does he feel, do you know if he feels like he did something wrong?
I'm sure I can't put words in his mouth, but I will tell you, I would be surprised if he didn't, because the other 619 members of this police department knew it was wrong, and I think have told him it was wrong. So this is not something that is widely felt across the department, that this is something you should say ever.
Are we allowed to ask Earl that question?
You most certainly can.
You guys have a question? Are you excited about these upcoming series of events, or?
Excited?
Well, I mean, not excited, but are you looking forward to it, or whatever?
I am looking forward to whatever we can do to help the chief, his administrative staff, and the city, period. Cultural competency is something that when I was in Homeland Security, we did around the state in several cities that had police community problems. And that cultural competency is extremely important because it teaches an officer how to check their own kinds of biases and those kinds of things and follow departmental policy. So we are very excited to help do this cultural competency for this agency.
I mean, the police department often already has these neighborhood meetings, and if the trust has already been broken, how do you get people to come out to these? How do you get people to interact or want to interact if they already feel like they aren't being taken care of by police?
Right. Well, the first thing is to have genuine care. I do believe that this police chief, his staff do have genuine care for the city and for the activities and conduct of their officers. I always say there's a reason why we have conduct policies. It's not that all officers are great and good. There's always those few that we have to follow policy on. So I think as long as the community know that the chief is genuine in caring for his officers and caring for that community, and with the discipline whenever it's needed, the proper discipline to then correct behavior.
Do you know when the first one's gonna be? Any idea?
That's up to the chief.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we've been, obviously coming up to this point, we've been having a lot of conversations. I've directed our community services to start reaching out with Earl and to see when we can have a time together. I'm hoping to have one in July.
Are you looking at specific neighborhoods, or where are you planning on trying to target?
They're going to be open citywide, so, but depending on, you know, how the first one is received and if we have people coming, unfortunately, even before all this stuff happened, we have a lot of community meetings where unfortunately we don't get a lot of our community to show. So I'm hopeful that we'll have a good turnout and a good response. That way we can continue to have these conversations and build off of them. That'll determine how many more we move forward on. But right now we have not specifically identified a location yet.
You mentioned child development
Yes.
as well. What does that look like in training for your officers?
So having our training staff, look, they're preparing for our training for next year. That's where child development and adolescence will come in. And it's basically just kind of reaffirming the facts of how a child's mind develops and, you know, what stages they go through, and hopefully give them a little bit more understanding on when they're dealing with a juvenile, that they can communicate better with them and basically have a better interaction there.
You talk about just even those interactions. Are there differences when it comes to physical force as well as how you guys are supposed to interact with juveniles?
So our physical force isn't based necessarily on age, sex, or any of that kind of stuff, because it's based on the suspect's actions and those actions that are required to overtake those actions to gain control.
Is there anything that you would want to just tell the community? Because obviously we saw that social media moved these into the forefront. It had a lot of spotlight on it, and people probably are just probably have mixed feelings about everything right now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, understandably, right? The reality is this: no matter, let's just take the use of force one first, right? So no matter what amount of force is used with whoever it's used with, it never looks good on video. It just looks terrible. Unfortunately, it's a necessary evil in our world, in our line of work. So for me, you know, it's something I wish didn't happen. But unfortunately, when someone refuses to cooperate, our officers are left with little other options. They can't just turn around and walk away. You just can't say, you don't want to work with us, you don't want to talk to us, you don't want to give us the information we need, all right, fine, whatever, we'll just leave. That just doesn't work that way. So in that particular incident, our officers, after multiple repeated attempts to get the young lady to come over to the car and give information, you know, when she started pulling away and resisting, at that point our officers had no other choice to go hands-on and arrest her.
there are no further questions, we'll conclude this.
All right, thank you, guys, I appreciate it.
Thank you.